A long time ago, when a galaxy not that far away, back in 1977, there was a little film created that would go on to spawn a billion-dollar industry, known for its exotic locations, iconic battles and scenes, and memorable characters. Star Wars has gone on to shape the minds of many generations, and even in just its original trilogy, it has captivated many hearts. Today, the Star Wars series is well known by many, but what about that one time period when there was a bit of a gap?
Hello everyone, my name is Omar Kabej, and welcome to Pop Cultured Remix.
As time progresses, pop culture will continue to advance, but how did it get its start? Well, let's find out.
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Pop Cultured Remix, the show where we analyze the history and significance of all things of the popular culture. I am your host, Omar Kabej. Now, as mentioned in the intro, Star Wars really is one of the most iconic and important film franchises of all time, at least in terms of the modern era. I mean, yes, I really do like Star Wars. In fact, since its groundbreaking inception in 1977, Star Wars has inspired many, not only with its amazing cast of characters and its mythos, but also its great special effects and overall just very innovative ideas. However, a lot of people forget that there was a time where for 16 whole years, we did not have a single Star Wars movie after the release of Return of the Jedi. And so, granted, we had a lot of things to fill the gap in, like a couple of cartoons, some video games, and even a thing called Ewoks, The Battle for Endor. Yeah, that's the thing that happened. But, finally, in 1999, we got something called Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, The Phantom Menace is one of those films that has kind of an interesting sort of history about it, not only in terms of how it was created, but also the reception that it got after it came out. Some people liked it, some people didn't, some people really liked it, and some people really didn't. But I feel like over time, the opinion on the Phantom Menace has kind of eased up a little bit. It's not considered like one of the travesties of cinema anymore, at least to my knowledge. So I think on this first episode of Pop Culture Remix, I want to analyze the Phantom Menace, particularly that gap between that and Return of the Jedi 16 years earlier, and discover what was Star Wars like during that 16-year gap, and what was Phantom Menace like when it first came out, and what did people really think of it. But we have to go back, and I mean way back. I mean, as we're making this video, Return of the Jedi came out 42 years ago. Wow. In fact, just last year, The Phantom Menace celebrated its 25th anniversary. Man, so let's do it. Damn it. Oh, sorry. I know this is kind of the first episode, so I haven't really worked out all the technical parts yet. Now, okay, there should be something coming down here, but...
Now let's begin in 1983. By this point, Star Wars Return of the Jedi was just released in theaters, and it was very successful, both commercially and especially financially. And to director George Lucas, that was it. There was no need to continue the story. Everything was wrapped up, all loose ends were tied, and at this point he could just move on from Star Wars and go on to make new projects. Yes, new projects. Oh boy. Now, for Star Wars fans, this was considered the dark times of Star Wars, in the sense that it was no longer really in the public mindset as it used to be. I mean, don't get me wrong, Star Wars things were being made. As mentioned earlier, we had a couple cartoons like Star Wars droids and Ewoks. We had some new video games like the ones on MS-DOS, an arcade game by Atari with a really cool flight yoke, and the Super Star Wars games on the Super Nintendo. But in terms of movies, not really, unless you count the previously mentioned Ewoks: The Battle for Endor. But by the 90s, things started to change. At this point, computer effects, or CGI, was starting to become way more popular in the mindset of moviegoers, especially with films like Terminator 2: Judgment Day from 1991 and Jurassic Park in 1993. And so, in 1994, George Lucas decided to sit down and write a prequel to Star Wars, what he would call Episode 1. Now, at this point, Star Wars was starting to go a bit back into the public mindset. In 1992, there was a 15th anniversary re-release of the films on VHS and Laserdisc. And for those who don't know what a Laserdisc is, it's basically the movie that's the size of a vinyl record, and you have to flip the dang thing halfway through. Yeah, that's what people had to do back in the day, let me tell you. But, as I said earlier, Star Wars was now going back into public consciousness. And so, the process began. Before then, though, let's briefly discuss one other part of Star Wars history. As mentioned before, computer imagery was starting to become a lot more advanced, and George Lucas saw that and is like, wait a second, I can do that too. And what better films to do that with than, well, films he's already made. In 1997, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Star Wars, theaters saw the Special Editions. Yes, those special editions. The one where Jabba the Hutt now actually looks like Jabba the Hutt. Multiple songs were changed, they added clouds to Cloud City, and yes, Han shot first. Despite the criticisms that has come about these films, they were a massive success. Star Wars was now back in theaters for an entirely new generation. It was time to begin the hype for the Phantom Menace, and I'm not just talking about the movie. I'm talking about the merchandise associated with the movie. The toys. The toy launch for the Phantom Menace was humongous. In fact, you could say that this was one of the first big showings of a midnight release for merchandise. People were waiting outside of toy stores, running in like it's Black Friday, and gobbling up as much Star Wars Phantom Menace toys as humanly possible. Not only that, but we also had Star Wars Celebration come out around this time as well. An entire event meant to celebrate the legacy of Star Wars and, of course, hyping the Phantom Menace. In fact, I believe that this is where the first trailer for the Phantom Menace first debuted. And so, it finally came. On May 19th, 1999, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was released in theaters. And if you thought the hype for the toys was insane, imagine the movie itself. People were waiting outside in tents for weeks before this movie came out. Oh, and when they did get inside, you best believe the excitement did not stop. People were amped, thrilled, excited, all of the above to see this movie. And when they did see it, well, it wasn't 100% positively received? I mean, don't get me wrong, people definitely liked the movie, but some people did not like it. In fact, they saw major problems and were disappointed. Huh. Well, I wonder what I think of it.
Alright then, well, now we have a very important part, and that is to actually talk about the Phantom Menace movie itself. You know, look at the film and how does it hold up and all that good stuff. But how are we going to watch it? Now, you'd think I would watch like one of the new Blu-rays or something like that, you know, like a high quality version of it, but nah, I'm a little different than that. Instead, we're going to be watching on one of these. This right here. This is the actual VHS copy of the Phantom Menace released back in the year 2000. And it's crazy because I believe DVD was already a thing when this came out, but I guess it got released here first. So let's pop it into the VCR and let's take a look. All right then. Well, I just got done watching The Phantom Menace, and despite the, let's be honest, not great quality of VHS, I'll be honest, I didn't completely hate it. I'll be honest, I think the movie's okay. Like, it's not a perfect film or anything. I don't think it's as good as these, but there are parts I like about it. And I'll be honest, I'm not the only one who agreed with this when it first came out.
I don't really think anyone can deny the legacy of the Phantom Menace. I mean, sure, yes, the film has problems, lots of it, but there are some really good elements too, like Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul as a character, and Duel of the Fates. I mean, come on! Even stuff like the pod races, Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn, and yes, having full CG worlds. That is solid. Now, yes, we may look back at The Phantom Menace not as fondly as the other films, but without The Phantom Menace, we may not have the modern Star Wars mythos that we have today. This film really did introduce a lot of people to Star Wars as a concept, and I think that is extremely important. In fact, I would make the argument that The Phantom Menace is one of the most important films in our modern pop culture zeitgeist, showing how sequels can be made over a decade after the originals come out. I mean, look at all these examples. And yes, I do think the film still deserves to be looked at, and I still believe that The Phantom Menace, while not perfect, is an important film in its own right.
Well, I think that about covers it. I hope you enjoyed this first episode of Pop Culture Remix. I am your host, Omar Kabej, and I'll see you next time.